We back again. We back again. Like I said, we cranking them out, cranking them out. So this video is going to be from my boy again. Hello, Yasim. Kanye West and Travis Scott's ghostwriter erupted on Twitter. I haven't seen it, but I'm sure the video is going to let us take a peek into what he actually said. So without wasting no time, make sure you like, sub to this channel, and let's get to the video.
What's poppin', y'all? The man that Ye brought into the game, that wrote a lot of Ye's hits and music throughout Ye's career, and he was on Good Music, and a man who also wrote a lot for Travis Scott. He, at the very least, wrote his Sicko Mode verse, which we got the reference track for. Cyhi to Prynce came out with a wild statement on X that created a lot of discussion that we're going to go over. So the first tweet that erupted, that created all this conversation. Now, it's not like a huge engagement tweet in terms of likes, but it did create conversation, was rap hip-hop is so boring. Artists are still rapping about the same topics. It's no creativity, or it's too much creativity. I miss having record labels and A&Rs. Me personally, I do not miss that era at all. And well, actually, there are some aspects of it that I miss, maybe in the pop end of things, but within hip-hop, not so much. But what's funny is that Cyhi came from that era, and he has struggled himself with trying to get a deal. I remember when he was trying to put out No Dope on Sundays, which is a great album. If you haven't listened to it, you should really check it out.
Check that out.
He was struggling to find a distributor for it. And then even after that, he said he had like 3 or 4 albums ready. He was just looking for a deal. He put out an open letter trying to get a deal. So Cyhi is from way back. And he's still of the mind that, okay, I need to have a deal. I need to have somebody push this music for me, because he hasn't adapted. And his mentality also shows that he hasn't adapted. But he goes on and says, I grew up in an era where your lyricists were from the streets. Now it's a bunch of straight A students who dropped out of college their sophomore year to be rappers. You can tell they don't have any life experience. They're just good with words. What's funny is that somebody who, let's say from the streets, which is likely people that are staying within their same neighborhood, because let's be real here, somebody's from the streets, either they can't afford to leave, or they can't really move around too much because they might either be locked up, or they might be on house arrest, or they'll have an ankle monitor, so it's limited. And what are you seeing? You're seeing the same stuff in the streets every single day. Somebody that went to college, let's say they grew up in the streets or whatever, or in poor environments, they go to college, they have more life experience and diversity of people than the person that just stayed in the streets. So the fact that he's saying they don't have life experience is a little bit weird, but I think what he's trying to say is that the things that they're rapping about don't relate to him. But he gives a little bit more explanation where he says, I'm cool with a couple college dropout rappers. And he's talking about Ye, because people were like, yo, didn't the guy, you're describing the guy that put you on? He's like, yeah, that was in 2003, though. So he's saying that this is a more common thing now. But I miss when authentic lyrics like Jay-Z, Nas, DMX, T.I., Outkast were mainstream, and not just kids who were just good in literature class. Ye was the original. Now that's all the mainstream rappers these days. I don't know what this guy is talking about, because when we're talking about mainstream rappers, who's popping in the mainstream right now?
Let me see. Who's popping in the mainstream? I guess you can put the usual suspects. Kendrick Lamar. I don't really know what Drake is doing. I mean, nobody really in mainstream is really doing crazy numbers like that. You know what I mean? So J. Cole just dropped a project. I want to say it's, doing numbers. People are streaming it. I haven't really got a chance to sit with it and listen to it. I'm going to have to do that probably tomorrow or sometime this week. But yeah, I can't really think of anybody in the mainstream that's like really cooking right now. Like I said, all of the hot shit is underground. You know what I mean? Like the dudes that are like you don't hear about on the radio. Everybody that's, fucking with Derringer, The Alchemist, Hit Boy, like, yeah, they are doing real numbers. They running shit up.
With Travis Scott, Yeah, this might be a Travis Scott diss actually, because Travis Scott kind of dropped out at that time, but Travis Scott is not a lyricist. So when he's talking about a mainstream lyricist, who do we have other than Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, Drake?
Right.
Drake didn't drop out of college, or he's not talking about Drake in this scenario for sure. And he calls Kendrick Lamar being a rapper from the streets too. So he doesn't even throw Kendrick Lamar in here. And I don't even think Kendrick Lamar went to college. J. Cole graduated from college. So that's a different person too. So where are these mainstream rappers that dropped out of college and are lyricists? I don't know of any. Like, the majority of the most successful rappers in the game right now are either from the streets and doing well commercially, or like 21 Savage from the streets. A$AP Rocky, he's kind of like, he's not really a lyricist. He's more of like a fashion type of rapper, and he doesn't fall under what this guy's trying to say. What else do we have? We've got Future. Future doesn't fall under this. Future's from the streets. We've got Uzi. Uzi's not a lyricist. We've got Youngboy. That's as much. Youngboy is one of the hottest, and that's as much of a street rapper as you can get.
Youngboy.
And he's not like a lyricist, but he's got lyrics. Lil Baby falls under this. So this is one thing that he doesn't point out throughout the entire video and throughout his whole tweet storm. Who in the mainstream falls under this? Is a lyricist and is like kind of a nerd or whatever you want to call it. There are none. Zilch.
It's really not.
I don't see any. Just look at any popular playlist. Like, you've got Huncho on there, you got DaBaby, you got Big X the Plug. Who doesn't fall under this? Who else do we got? Glorilla, NLE Choppa. Rod Wave is more of like a singer. Like, none of these people. Gunna didn't go to college.
Red.
Gunna fits the bill of what Cyhi is talking about.
Sukihana.
So who is he referencing? Because he's acting like we're getting bombarded with mainstream rappers that are lyricists, which is already very, very uncommon.
That's
and then
because
somebody
labels
says
are not
that
trying
is a
to push
lie.
that
Many
shit.
early rappers
That's
were
why.
college kids and performing arts students. And then he says, no, they weren't. Maybe in high school, but most 90s rappers didn't graduate. Okay, that's fair enough. I mean, I think even in the 90s, less people overall were going to college than now.
That's because rappers in the 90s, I know I'm stopping the video a lot. I'm going to let it play through after this. But a lot of the rappers from the 90s, your Biggies, your Jay-Z, Nas, and Tupac, though they didn't finish school, they read a lot of books. They read dictionaries. You know what I'm saying? Because they already knew that by me dropping out of school and not finishing school is already going to put me at a disadvantage amongst most people, especially in terms of looking for a job or being in corporate. So I got to now make up for that. So let me read some books. Let me learn X, Y, and Z. Let me pay attention. Let me watch certain content, certain TV programs that can, I could feed my brain, knowledge. That's the upper hand that they had. And they didn't have the internet at their disposal. They had to actually go and read these books. Whereas now we got all this technology, and these niggas that's in the game now can't even put together a complete sentence. They can't even speak a complete sentence, let alone write one. You know what I'm saying?
And then somebody says, I thought about this, and you're right about most of the old lyrical guys, except Andre 3000 being from the streets. But my personality was shaped by Q-Tip, The Far Side, and De La Soul. These people are old. Who taught me the value in being being pro-black, unique, intelligent, sensitive. And then he says, Andre's from the streets. I'm not saying you had to be a full-on criminal, but you can't be no in-the-house rapper. I mean, the goalpost keeps getting moved here. Because somebody said, say Kendrick's name. And then he says, Kendrick is from the streets, so you can background check. Yeah, he is. And I don't even think Kendrick Lamar went to college. And then another person says, and street rappers read at a third grade level. To which Cyhi says, nah, those are the ones that the labels sign. The ones that the power that be put in our people face so we can fill the prison system. So here you have Cyhi, who kicks this off saying he wants less rappers that were able to succeed at rap to the degree that they could drop out of college. And then he says that the labels sign the ones that are actually in the streets so we can fill the prison system. but he said he wanted more lyricists from the streets. So what is it that this guy wants? He will clarify a little bit later, but this is a very important point that kind of builds the foundation of where Cyhi is coming from. If you in the modern day still believe that record labels are saying, okay, how are we going to, what kind of music do we like and are we going to push onto the people? You are so far behind and lost. It's almost like you're drowning. You got to toss this person like a life raft or something, because most of these guys are following date. Like, what is a record label? A record label is a business. Back then, you didn't have any way to really validate your business model. Like, you had to go by taste. Like, I think this will hit because, you know, we've had an A&R who's got a good ear for things.
Right.
And also music was expensive to make. But when you had people that were selling product already, they signed them. They said, oh, this guy's validated. He's already selling product. He's already got motion. And that's how you got deals like No Limit. People that already had things going on. You had deals like Cash Money. Cash Money got such a favorable deal because,
I mean, I would say the labels kind of play both sides. Like, if you already, had something going, they would sign you, and they were also doing artist development as well.
was in New Orleans, and they already had motion. That was a lot harder to get back then. But now, why would they take the risk when there's data?
My bad, y'all. I had to actually pause the video. My sister and her friend was getting ready to leave, and my son came down here. You know, got to be a father and a content creator all at the same time. But anyway, what I was trying to get my thought out was the labels, they used to rock with you if you already had motion in the street, but then they also would do artist development as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, they took time. They seen a vision. It's like, okay, I see what we got. We got something here, but you're a little rough around the edges. We got to get you polished and stuff like that. But they don't do that no more. Now, if you're trying to get to a label, you got to already be fully assembled out the box. They don't want to have to put no work into developing you. You already got to have your sound. You already got to have a fan base. You already got to have units. You know, you got to already have motion, basically. So back in the day, they used to, pretty much handle both.
And the data says,
opinion.
okay, hey, this song's a hit. By the way, it's blowing up. The trajectory is going to go crazy. All right, go sign that guy. Easy. Toss him a bag. So the things have changed. And yeah, they don't really need an A&R anymore. And it's less risk. So they get to lower the risk. They get to make it a higher percentage chance, because there's no 100%, a significantly higher percentage chance that this artist's song/catalog is profitable. Yeah, they're going to do that. And then somebody says, man described his former boss and label, but want us to believe that there was a time all lyricists were in the streets. And he says, I like a few of them, but it's no articulate street rap in the forefront of music I like. Freddie Gibbs, Boldy James, Benny the Butcher. So these are people that he's trying to reference. So Benny the Butcher, that guy came out of prison. Freddie Gibbs, who, despite all of the odd stuff surrounding him, fits this guy's bill. But these guys are not mainstream. They're not even close to mainstream. Well, Freddie Gibbs got kind of close. These guys just have their own cult fan base. So where are the record labels that signed Freddie Gibbs and pushed him really hard? If anything, he was on Jeezy's label. That didn't work out for him. I think he got another deal that didn't work out. He was independent for a long time and blew up, if you want to call it that. But he built a very, very sizable audience and fan base to where he was able to get a favorable deal after that. But the deal came after he made motion for himself. And these guys aren't mainstream, which goes back to my question, like, what is Cyhi talking about? What are they pushing on us? And then somebody says, why is that any less important than those from the streets? He says, because I want to hear substance, not a bunch of rhyming words. Well, a bunch of people don't want to hear rhyming words or substance with the rhyming words. They want to just start moving around, and that's what the charts are dictating, especially considering, like, you got country taking over. You had Latin trap / reggaeton, like, taking over as well after that. Like, hip-hop has been falling off on the chart. And then we got Uzi, who's got, like, the biggest hit right now. And that song is kind of just one that you move to, not substance or rhyming words. And then somebody says, it's 2026 and we're expanding on culture now. Keep up or get left behind. We're off this caveman mindset. I don't think Cyhi the Prynce is mindset is like cavemanish. I just think it's very limited in scope. I do think he has a bias towards and away from towards like rappers that shared his life experience. That's it, which is fine. But he needs to understand that he's aging out and he's not the target market. He says, nah, y'all just don't have standards in 2026. Y'all are just weak-minded. Okay? And then somebody says, Cyhi never washed nobody and his best moments are through another rapper. All right, they got to chill with that. But he says, I will wash them all. Yeah, so we're not going to disrespect Cyhi's artistry and his pen. That's not going to happen. Somebody says it's a bad take, and he says, no, it's not. It's just a lot of college rappers that don't be rapping about ish. They just have an extensive vocabulary. Where is this? This is what I'm saying. Like, can he give us, I know he doesn't want to give an example because he doesn't want to knock people down, especially these people probably looked up to him, funny enough. But these people don't exist. They're not on the charts. They're not on playlists. I don't see them. So he's like kind of complaining into the void about something that nobody is seeing except him. And the street artist labels sign are the one they feel have a name in the streets. Yeah, because that's what people care. They don't care about some street artist. And this is the thing. This guy's like changing the definition. So he's saying, okay, you're not doing crime, but you're surrounded by crime, and you're rapping about the perspective of seeing that, which is kind of like Kendrick Lamar, especially Good Kid, Mad City.
I think for me, it's that, or the thing with Cyhi and what he's looking for, it's already been done. There's no metaphor, no lyric that we haven't heard already from all of the greats. They all said something that was like a punchline that made you jump out your seat like, ooh. But there's nothing to talk about that will give that feeling. You know what I'm saying? We just might have reached the ends of mainstream rap. You know what I'm saying? Like, what else is there?
And he's saying that that's being spread out, and he wants more of that. But people who didn't go through that, he wants less of that. Or he's saying that there's a lot of that. I don't think so. And also, hip-hop has grown a lot in popularity in the past, well, since Cyhi was a youngin'. So 20 years, like 2010s, it grew a lot. So a lot of these college rappers, if he wants to call them that, they grew up on hip-hop. So it's spread, and that's just how successful it was. And he says he wants rappers to rap about dying over a street that we don't own. And then somebody says, no, I just don't want to hear about your corny life either. It should be a balance. There is a balance. And this is the thing. Any and every type of rap music is available if you look hard enough. You really, Cyhi the Prynce, the best prescription for him is just hand him TikTok. This is the problem. The guys that fit the bill that Cyhi the Prynce is talking about are not good at marketing their music in the modern day, which is also why Cyhi the Prynce is not good at marketing his music in the modern day. And they expect somebody else to do it for them, which nobody's going to do it for them, because the people that are going to do it for you are the ones that want to have the most commercial return on their investment. So they're most likely going to go to the rapper that makes better music, that's palatable to more people, that is usually probably, and if they're involved in the streets whatsoever, like, for example, let's say a 100K track, right? Like, he's managed a lot of street artists, or even a Sean Cotton from Say Cheese TV. They're going to sign the ones that have hits and have street credibility. So that just leaves you in no man's land. And then somebody says, isn't this a good thing? Blacks aren't in poverty anymore? LMAO, I don't understand the old people of today. And he said, man, you young bucks just don't have a life, because y'all are on, I'm guessing, these computer devices and video games all day. Well, yes, there's a big shift in what's happening. And honestly, these computer devices and video games have probably saved a lot of people from going to prison. So the whole prison thing that he's talking about, if it's so entertaining and you're broke and you've got an iPhone and you can play all of this other stuff like Minecraft and all that and Roblox, and it keeps you out of the streets and potentially getting into legal trouble, shouldn't we be supporting that? Anyway, they ask him, what do you think of Rock Marcy, Conway, Billy Woods, Makhami, Rome Streets? He says, I like them, but they are underground severely. Yes, this is our point. So the people that he's talking about exist. So he said, oh, I wanted more of them. People name a ton of them. He even named some of them.
Listen, I'm going to keep it 100 with y'all. The underground dudes in rap are probably some of the most listenable rappers today because they're experimenting with different sounds, instruments, and stuff like that. And like I said, a lot of them, they got the likes of the Alchemist, Derringer, Hit Boy. Who else is producing underground? It's a couple of other dudes, but they just got that sound. You know what I mean? I'm gonna throw Jay Versace in there too. I don't know if he's produced anything as of lately, but he got his own sound too. Oh, what's his name? Nick Calvin. I mean, Carvin. I think that's how you say it. He another one. Like he's a producer. Like that's where the sound is. That's usually if you go on my Spotify right now, you'll see I'll be listening to Boldy, Benny, Larry, Currency, Rome, West Side Gun, Conway the Machine. Like these are the rappers that I'll be listening to the most. Rock Marciano. Who else? What's the other dude I'll be listening to? Um, it'll come back to me. But let's continue.
Boldy James, what's his name? Benny the Butcher, Freddie Gibbs, and then people gave him like 6 more names.
Freddie Gibbs
he says,
too.
yeah, so we got 10 artists so far. 10 artists, they're each dropping an album. You've got plenty of music right there that fit your bill. But his issue here is one of commercial viability because he says they are underground severely. Yeah, they are underground because they do not appeal to the masses. That's it. And there is no amount of labels, there is no amount of money they can throw at it to force people to like it. That's just not how things work. The market's going to dictate what the market wants, and they don't want that. And you could say the reason why it succeeded back then wasn't even just because of the market, because like hip hop was smaller and it was like more street based. It was probably just because that's who the gatekeepers chose. Like, for example, when you had people like Ebro that were so.
But are people really checking for the majors now? I just want to know. Maybe I'm out the loop because, like I said, I don't really listen to the majors, especially in recent years. I would say since the 2010s, most of the music that I had been bumping was, underground music. So y'all let me know what y'all out here listening to.
Out of touch with a Lil Yachty, a Lil Uzi, things like that, they would have never given that a chance on radio to see if people would receive it well. So back then, you could say that these people only succeeded to the level that they did because of gatekeeping and also because of other politics behind the scenes. Some people were bullying these people into playing music. Some people were paying these people to play music. Some people were threatening them. So all of this other stuff that was going on to keep the music at the forefront that Cyhi to Prynce liked back then is just grimy stuff, and it's gatekeeping, and it's kind of like artificially making the business a certain way. And then somebody says, if this is coal smoke, it's lame and unwarranted. You're one of the greatest talents on the mic ever. Present your art and bask in the love that you get. The world would love a Cyhi project. We got enough. He says, is he the only one who went to school? Can name 10 others. Well, he graduated. And then they said he's corny. He says, unfortunately, you're corny, my guy, for understanding that I like diversity in music. There is diversity. This is the most diverse period ever when it comes to music, when it comes to quality. So there's absolute garbage out there, of course. There's absolute amazing music. And when it comes to the breadth of just hip hop, so many different subgenres that overall the music sales have dipped because people are consuming across the board so much different styles of music. There's something for everybody. And somebody says it's just as many street rappers not rapping about ish. They're fluff and gold on both sides as it's always been. You know that. He says, yeah, but we don't have street lyrics in the mainstream anymore. So he was just saying that the mainstream, the labels are pushing, or yeah, these college rappers, that's where they're all at. And now he's saying we don't have street lyrics in the mainstream. It's just super street lifestyle music or super educated rapper. I like the gray area. Where's the super educated rappers in the mainstream? Please show me. I don't see them. And this gray area this is an emotions-based argument. Like I said,
really it
show
is.
me the.
I mean, I respect Cyhi to Prynce, his pen game and stuff like that, but I really truly think that, he's just, it's like somebody that's just in the store. They don't know what they want. They saying a whole lot, but they don't really know what it is that they want because if that's what you want to hear, then just go listen to that music. Go back and pull out the classics to get that. But if what you're asking for is for these younger rappers to basically rap a Nas verse, but just tweak it a little bit, it's not gonna happen. It's not happening.
These artists. And I'm asking you guys to show me too. Show me in the comments. He says, I said what I said. I don't think just extreme street rap or extreme college rap is all hip hop has to offer. I want to hear more street rappers be lyrical. I missed that sound period. If you don't like what's said, then oh well. So he wants street rappers to make music that is going to perform worse than the music that they make so that they can eventually get dropped by their record label so that they can go back to being underrated severely.
Yeah, let me tell you something, man. The days of the late 2000s, the early 90s, late 2000s, like when Jay and DMX and Nas and Rough Riders was in their prime, them days are long gone, man. We're not going to see that again. You're not going to get that. I think that might be his thing. He's looking for that late 90s, early 2000s vibe, or just those type of rappers in the game. They are either passed on or they've aged out. You know what I'm saying? And these younger rappers, they didn't grow up in that. They were born either during that time or after that. So, or they were kids like myself. So you're not going to get that.
Because that's the path that they're going to go down if they listen to what Cyhi is talking about right here. And somebody says, this is an accurate take and I like it. But one thing I noticed is this isn't a problem. More so the people from the streets having a hard time relating to anything else but the streets. And that's in reference to him saying, you know, growing up when people were from the streets. He says, you're right, but they signed street artists based on authenticity and money and not skill. Yes, because this is a business. The skill, right. There is not a proportional reward based on the skill of lyricism and the income generated. It does not work like that. There's almost like, in the beginning, yeah, it matters. You got to have at least a bare minimum of skill rapping to be able to make certain music. And then it just tapers off like crazy.
See, the thing is, what he don't understand, or maybe he does, is to be a lyrical rapper back in the day, you were really walking a thin line because it could either make or break you, in my opinion. You take a Nas, for example. Nas had the aura. He had the aesthetic. You know what I'm saying? He was the full package as far as having style, and his pen game was crazy. That first album, Illmatic, everybody knows that is like on the Mount Rushmore of rap albums of the 90s. You know what I'm saying? At least my Mount Rushmore of rap albums of the 90s. So, you know, it was like walking a thin line. But if you knew what you was doing, you could make it work and you could make a lot of money. See, Jay's pen game was crazy. He could throw a subliminal in there, throw a punchline in there, but he also had style with it. You know, he made Cristal popular, Platinum Jewelry. You know what I'm saying? So, man. But you had a good mix. Nas was lyrical. Jay was lyrical. You know what I'm saying? But they were lyrical in their own ways.
Easy. Like somebody like Cyhi, who's at the top, versus somebody like a Travis Scott, who's on the lower end. The difference in skill is so wide, but the amount of reward that Cyhi gets is almost nothing for being that good. Honestly, it's like far less than Travis Scott. Like being able to make songs is really the highest leverage skill. Also, being able to know how to put people together that make songs, that make great songs, is really the highest thing. And that's where you get like a DJ Khaled or any other executive producer, including Travis Scott. And then somebody says the best we got is Kodak, to where I'm thumbing up any pro Kodak.
No shade to Kodak,
when
but
it comes
no.
to his music. This guy's music is incredible. It's been incredible for 10 plus years, and I love Kodak Black's music. He says, now this is the best response I've heard so far. This is the difference, though. Kodak Black doesn't fall in that gray area. Kodak Black is a street rapper. Like, we've seen him do. This guy's been in and out of jail more times than.
I don't listen to Kodak. Is Kodak really like that? You know, as far as rap, I don't know. Y'all let me know in the comments, because hey, I might be missing out, or I might have missed out, because like I said, most of the music that I listen to is underground.
He can count. He got saved by Trump, his lawyer's really tight with Trump, and he got him pardoned. So Kodak is not just somebody that was around the streets and watching what was going on. No, he was very active in it. And Kodak Black is not, I don't think he fits the bill of a lyricist like he's talking about Boldy James and these other guys. He certainly doesn't. However, he does have great songwriting, great emotions, and things like that. So we're in the same page there. But there you go. If Kodak Black is a very mainstream rapper. So what is Cyhi complaining about? He wants more of that? We kind of got that already. And somebody says, what changed it and when did it change to you? I think it's just marketing and how music is consumed now. Yeah, they've just made it democratized. Like, we actually get to see what people genuinely like now. Back then, it was kind of hidden. Or people didn't know. And it was just, hey, throw this on the people. And people just consumed it. They didn't have an option for anything else because there wasn't a way to discover it. I think it's just marketing and how music is consumed now. Aesthetics make the story not matter. And that's how and why the essence is fading. I don't think that's the case. I think story still matters for people that have longevity. I agree with you for the most part, but some of my favorite street rappers went to college too. He says, I like my favorite artists to have some hands-on experience, but also have some education. That's why my favorite rappers were Jay-Z, Nas, T.I., Outkast, Jadakiss, Trick Daddy, Juvenile, which Jadakiss... These guys are on podcast mics now because they're
because that rap money is not really where it is anymore. I mean, even sports athletes are getting into the whole podcast, sit down and talk gossip space because they can't play sports forever. And then rappers, a lot of them, they done rapped about any and everything under the sun. There's nothing else for them to rap about. So it's like, all right, well, we might as well just sit and talk and have a podcast about just our comings and goings in the rap industry for 30 plus years. You know what I'm saying? But just looking at this list of rappers, Jay-Z, Nas, T.I., Outkast, Jadakiss, Trick Daddy, Juvenile, you're talking about a group of rappers who, yeah, they didn't necessarily go to school, but like I said earlier, they read books. You know what I'm saying? They were watching kung fu movies and all this other type of stuff to help sharpen their level of thinking. You know, they got their education from books and certain television programming and just what they saw in life. You know what I mean? Just living in the street or seeing what was going on in the street. These rappers today, no, that's not what they're living. You know, a lot of them, their life has been created off of the internet. You know what I'm saying? They lived in the internet streets. You know what I'm saying?
Music doesn't resonate with an audience anymore. Because I heard the self-taught guy versus somebody who plays sheet music. This is snobby. This is a new kind of snobby. And what's funny is that he's talking about these guys. Meanwhile, Cyhi the Prynce is trying to do Twitch streams now. So what are we doing here?
What we doing, man?
He says, I hate when criminalize rap like them people back then weren't actors too. And he says they weren't actors. They just wasn't the most active. There's a difference. I mean, geez. Like, this is talking to a wall. This is an old head mentality right here. And it's not going to change.
Maybe he's just doing this for attention.
He's not going to open his mind. But it does create good conversation. And he says, you say this while a lot of rappers no longer show creativity. I disagree with this. No longer use storytelling and just follow the crowd because it's what's the latest thing selling. Stand on what you state or state nothing at all. He says, it's not selling anymore. That's why I'm saying it. So who is he going to be upset at? Because before he blamed labels and people choosing A&Rs and stuff like that, and he wanted them back, which they are still here. They're just siding based on data and what's most likely to succeed. And then he's saying that it's not selling anymore, and that's why he's saying it. So we're just following what people want. And what's more likely is that the majority of people, the masses, never wanted what Cyhi is looking for. It's just a niche thing, and it will always remain niche. So that's what I've got to say about the situation. I think Cyhi the Prynce is, I'm not going to say bitter. I don't think he's bitter at all. Although I do think he deserved more success in his career for his skill level. I think monetarily he's compensated well for the hits that he's been able to write. But it seems like he has a disdain for rappers that, because I just can't.
I'm gonna go ahead and cut the video short because it's almost over and we about 35 minutes in. We got to wrap this up. But I'll say this in closing. Yeah, Cyhi, if you feel that way, man, you should just start you a rap boot camp. You know what I'm saying? Just go out here and recruit some dudes that may have some potential if you could find them. Because most people, like I said today, that are young and coming up can't even put together a sentence, let alone speak one. So you're going to have a hard time with that. You know what I mean? I think what you're looking for is something that is long gone, you know, well in the past, and there may never be no resurgence of that. You know what I'm saying? So your best bet is to just go back and listen to the old tapes, listen to the old albums if you want that sound. You know what I mean? Because that ain't coming back, in my opinion. But y'all get down in the comments. Y'all let me know, is Cyhi tripping? You know, is he on one when he's saying all this stuff about just the current state of the mainstream rap? Or he's right? You know what I'm saying? Let me know what y'all think. And if y'all listen to mainstream, and if you do, who y'all be listening to? Do y'all listen to any of the rappers that I mentioned that I listen to? Y'all let me know down in the comments. If you made it this far into the video, like I always say, I appreciate y'all. Y'all know it means a lot to me when y'all watch these videos all the way through. You know, we trying to get to 1K. If you made it this far, make sure you like, sub to the channel. Make sure you leave a comment. It's your boy Robbie. And until next video, we out. Let's go.